More than a dozen residents in Greenbrier, Arkansas are suing fracking companies over earthquakes that have been linked to fracking. And Greenbrier, Arkansas isn't the only city where they're experiencing this issue. You also see this happening in Youngstown, Ohio. So we actually have a CBS Evening News report that explains why this happens. So we'll take a look at that and I'll explain more about the story.
These earthquakes were sitting there waiting to happen. We have triggered these earthquakes.
Armbruster believes the trigger was this Youngstown well that disposes of contaminated water trucked in from Pennsylvania and beyond. The water is a byproduct of oil and natural gas extraction called fracking. The disposal well pumps thousands of gallons of the waste into rock a mile or more below. Armbruster says the fluid may have made its way into an earthquake fault line.
Pumping the fluid into the fault encourages the fault to slip.
So there you go. There you have it. You know how this is, happening right now. And one thing that I should note is a lot of these companies that do the fracking have decided to stop fracking in those particular areas because of the earthquakes that they have caused. However, the number of earthquakes that Youngstown, Ohio has experienced is insane. So they never really had any seismic activity there until the fracking started. In Youngstown, Ohio, a recent study linked a spate of over 100 earthquakes, 109 to be exact, to the process used to dispose of wastewater from hydraulic fracturing or fracking. And I should note that one of the earthquakes was a magnitude 3.9. So people did not expect that. And of course, when you live in an area where you don't experience earthquakes, you're like, whoa, what the hell is that? So in Greenbrier, Arkansas, they had similar experience, and 12 residents have gotten together to file 5 lawsuits against the fracking companies. And, of course, we'll see how that goes. But the companies basically make the argument that, hey, we realized that there was a problem and we stopped afterward. So as a result, you guys should just drop the lawsuits and leave us alone.
Yeah. So one of the quotes here is, in Greenbrier, Arkansas, there weren't hundreds of small earthquakes, but thousands. So, but I like the Youngstown, Ohio example even better. They went from 0 to 109. Gee, I wonder which way the evidence tilts.
Well, it's hard to tell which way it tilts because the meter is going like this constantly. Yeah.
So look, it seems pretty clear. Now there's disadvantages to acquiring energy in so many different ways, right? So the energy conversation gets to be complicated, but it doesn't help if you ignore facts. And fracking has some upsides, right? But one of the clear downsides appears to be that they cause earthquakes or intensify the number of earthquakes that are happening. That seems pretty clear at this point. If you hear someone denying it, it's likely because they're making money from the opposite direction.
I mean, when you see that video, the animation of what they actually have to do, and then I'm sure you guys have all seen the videos on YouTube where people turn on their water and light and then it just explodes into a ball of flame. I mean, it proves every science fiction movie that I love about the future, how we are literally going to destroy the planet because we're drilling in it, our water's blowing up on fire. Water shouldn't turn into fire, as far as I know, generally. Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw Elysium, but the whole point of the movie is that Earth is destroyed, and then the rich people all have to go to this thing that's hanging around our atmosphere, and we're getting there. We're genuinely getting there. We have people like Richard Branson are making the space station for us to go to, and while we're all sitting here drinking fire water.
Well, I'm just wondering how much evidence we need to finally start investing in renewable energy. I mean, I get it. As soon as the Obama administration does it, and let's say a company like Solyndra fails, Republicans will jump on that, corporatists will jump on that and make that the prime example of why it's a bad idea. But if we're really thinking about, the long-term sustainability of our entire planet, we need to focus on renewable energy. I mean, study after study, incident after incident proves that, and we got to get real about it. I mean, we're really running out of time.
It reminds me of the Texas entrepreneur that I did a segment on recently, Ham. He's a huge Republican donor. He was going to be the top energy advisor for Mitt Romney, which is hilarious because he's the 78th richest man in the world, and he got his money on shale oil, right? And he says, no, renewable energy, they shouldn't have subsidies. That's the government intervening. They point out to him, but wait a minute, you have giant subsidies for your business. He says, I know, but I need those. And by the way, ironically, he doesn't at all.
I
He's
know.
the 78th richest man, and his company makes billions in profit. He doesn't need those subsidies at all.
Well, and he also said that, we can't do wind energy because those things just haunt you when you see them. We don't have time to do the story today, but we had it ready to go. That they did this massive study, and that these wind farms don't actually decrease the value of homes nearby and things like that. But yeah, the problem really is that when it comes to the fracking, when it comes to the burning of fossil fuels that we believe is pretty clearly linked to increasing global temperatures, they don't need to win the argument. They simply need to wait and make it difficult to do anything in terms of policy, and then they just suck the oil out of the ground for a few more years, for a few more decades, and who cares if that dooms us to losing our entire eastern coastline. They want to make that money and then die.
You know what I always
And
think?
they've had a good life. What do they care at that point?
I always think it's fascinating that if you turn on Fox News, if a bird happens to get killed in a wind turbine thing, O'Reilly literally does a half hour on it. That a bird flew into the thing because we're screwing up their air passages and blah, blah, blah. And yet we have BP oil spills that wipe out massive amounts of wildlife and destroy, the ecosystems and all kinds of craziness. But somehow, if one weird thing happens with a renewable energy source,
Yeah.
my God, we've got to help. They love the birds suddenly.
I know, and you also have to keep in mind that the oil rigs are really, really attractive.
Oh, yeah.
So we want to make sure we keep those, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they look good.
My
They
favorite
look
is the
good.
Republican congressmen who say, well, the good Lord put the oil on the ground so we can take it and use it for energy. So the good Lord didn't give us the wind or the sun so that we could use that energy? I'm pretty sure that the good Lord is responsible for that too. And the movie reference I prefer is you don't have to go to Elysium. We all go to Lord of the Rings. We're the dwarves, and we keep digging and digging into the earth. And what are we going to do? Eventually, we're going to release the Balrog.
Yeah.